And we're black.
We are black.
Blaq2Reality.
Yay!
Another episode.
We're doing this
another
shit on the
episode,
regular
another
now. It's
episode.
happening.
It is happening.
So glad to hear and see you all that we can't hear or see. But you know, you say awkward things in the beginning to get the mood right and
To
going.
get it started.
So, this particular episode, we are going to talk about being woke. What does it mean? How does it affect family and friends?
How does it affect you individually as a person?
Ugh.
Has someone ever said you're just too woke?
Well, tell them bitches to go to sleep. Good night.
Or stay asleep? How are you doing today?
I am doing well. I am so ecstatic and still kind of somewhat recovering from the weekend.
I bet you are.
So,
Did you go on a
Chaz
trip?
and Yoswar help facilitate the surprise of my best friends coming over from Georgia. I walked into the bar looking for Yoswar. He wasn't there. I turn around and I see my friend Antoine and Tim, and I was so ecstatic and so happy. That was really, really fun. Had a great weekend with them. Caught up and acted a fool. Turned it out. Went in and turned it out.
Turned up from Thursday on.
Thursday till Sunday.
Thursday
And
to
I
Sunday.
had a weed brownie, which was terrible. I
You
had
had
an
a what?
edible.
What is that?
So I accidentally, not accidentally, had an edible, and it took me 2 days to recover. So I have to remind myself not to do those. And I kind of thought it was a special occasion, so I was like, oh, what the hell? I'll do the weed brown teeth.
And you were high as kite.
I was high as a kite. Couldn't function, too relaxed. Couldn't move nothing. Everything was a task. Conversation, walking, everything.
Breathing. I'm glad you didn't have to remember
Staying
to
woke.
breathe. Because, right, staying woke. Well, I'm glad you're back. I'm glad you're back to some kind of normal.
As normal as it's going to get.
As normal as it's going to get at this point.
All right. How was your weekending?
I think my week ending was good. It was not long. It was short. I'm trying to remember what I did. Friday I went to the Celia Cruz tribute. Oh my goodness.
How was that?
In downtown LA. It was so nice. I went with my partner and their Primex. It was really, really dope. Is the mic messing up? No. It was really dope. It was two bands who did like the tribute to Celia Cruz. And I love that we're having a conversation about wokeness because no matter where I go, I know we're going to talk about it later, there's always something that usually that I can critique or, and not like critiquing in a like malicious way, just like I'm able to like call out people's levels of consciousness, and something happened at the concert too that I'll tell you about later. But other than that, it was really, really great. Because I think on this side of the country, we don't really, the big masses appreciate like Afro-Caribbean or Caribbean.
Yeah, speaking of Afro-Caribbean, Yerba Buena was there, and I didn't even know they were still doing music. From what I know, they only had two albums.
Yerba Buena wasn't there.
Oh, that wasn't them?
That was just the name of the song that I put up on the.
Okay, so
I thought that you
all
may
of
have.
that. I was like, what? Okay, so
No.
I'm a big fan of Yerba Buena, but I
Yeah.
think they broke up or they stopped
Yeah.
making music or whatever. But
Yerba
they're from
Buena,
Cuba.
They're from Cuba, and they used to sing.
Yo lo que quiero un burrito que me lleve.
And they had a woman main
que me
singer,
lleve
right?
lejos. Yeah, it was a woman singer.
Yeah.
She had like a little afro.
Yes,
She was
That's from
everything.
A long time ago.
Yeah. Well,
This is
that's why I
one
was like,
song.
what? I was happy to see them, but
Anyways, if y'all haven't listened to Yerba Buena, look them up.
all right. So I guess
yeah.
let's just jump on the woke topic. I'm
Yeah.
listening to this music that's got me like
Feeling what? Feeling
feeling
good.
juicy. I wish you
Good.
would extend, but it's
Okay, so what is woke to you? Briefly.
Um,
Let's see what the people say, because I put up on my social media
yeah,
too.
let's read some opinions on what woke is first, I think, and then kind of I'll tell you what woke means to me,
Well, I have nothing right now, so.
and you can tell me what, woke means to you.
Mm-hmm. I have nothing at the moment, so we might as well just get it started.
Okay, so what woke means to me, well, I feel like it started with marketing. I don't want to say marketing, but like I feel like it started off as like woke meaning being aware of white oppression or blackness. I felt like it was specific to race when the first time I heard it. It wasn't necessarily just like being conscious. It was a specific consciousness, a particular look on, consciousness. But now for me, it just means just, stay alert, stay awake, be aware, know,
Yeah.
know and be, you know. So that's just kind of my interpretation of woke. You can be asleep or you can be woke.
Yeah. I think like this generation uses language like stay woke, woke. But like I remember growing up, I was like, what language did we use growing up? And you said the word too. I think like in the late '90s, early 2000s, people would say conscious. Like I think of like Nas and Common and how like they would talk about like being conscious. And a lot of that, I think, yeah, you're right. It was like being racially conscious pertaining to like racism.
Right.
And even though we didn't say it back then about white supremacy, it was conscious about like white supremacy and particularly anti-blackness. But now I think woke, you're right. I think it's being aware and also having like a responsibility to like challenge these systems of oppression. And it's not just challenging racism, because if like depending on your level of consciousness, I think you understand if you're challenging racism, then you also have to challenge other forms of oppression like transphobia or heterosexism or sexism, things like that. That's what I think being woke is.
I agree. And I think it also touches on the burdens that come with being woke, or the alienation that can come with being woke. I posted, well, I can't look at it because I got my phone going, but I posted something, and it basically was just saying, like, being woke isn't, with being woke comes burden. With being woke comes, dumbing yourself down in a sense in certain moments. So it said being woke ain't cool. Being woke is having to dumb 98% of your conversation down every single day so you don't sound like a lunatic.
Oh my goodness.
And that spoke to me because I remember when I came here at 19 and
to California.
To LA. And those friends that I met in LA, those first initial friends, I feel like I've grown in consciousness, or I've grown in certain ways that they didn't necessarily grow, or they chose a different avenue. And that has made it difficult for me to connect with them. So it kind of, people start to tend to fall from the wayside. The majority of people are not as conscious or aware.
I'm over here scratching myself on camera, scratching my groin. Oh my goodness.
Right. That won't be air.
This is what. Oh, you're right. I'm sorry.
It's clips.
So
it's not clips of you doing awkward things.
So you've outgrown your initial first grouping of friends when you moved to LA.
Yeah. So when you know better, you do better, right? And so when you are talking about certain things and you understand, whiteness, or you understand blackness, or you understand microaggressions, or just when you have a more fuller picture or more understanding of why things happen, you move differently, you speak differently, you even the choice of words that you choose to use are different, and you start to resist those that have not grown with you, and that is a struggle in itself, and that's hard.
It is hard. I think it's hard to like even form a new community and new friends in that. Um, it reminds me of this poem that I wrote with Fong about don't be an activist, and we talk about like, for many of us, similar to like my experience, like my level of like wokeness started to develop when I went to college at 17 and got really involved with the Identity Resource Center at the university and or the Cross Cultural Center at the university. And so like all these things that I started to learn and then unlearn really expanded my mind, and I started to change. I started to understand why certain, like you were saying, like certain things weren't okay to say, and cultural things that like cultural practices, why some of the practices were oppressive and why they needed to be changed. And
What is some of like the feedback that you get now? Because I feel like so I do feel that we are somewhat relatively on the same level when it comes to awareness, but I feel that you are more unapologetically out loud with it than I am, and more challenging and direct. And so those that I think the benefit to that, those that are around you are like super authentic, super aware, super. They're all mostly in a space that either they're growing or they want to grow. You created a really good circle around you because of the way you chose to move in, different spaces, I believe. And what is some of those? I'm curious to some of the feedback that you received to those that chose to,
seduce, to bounce. Feedback.
to control, alt, delete themselves out of your life.
I'm laughing because I'm thinking about a situation that you and I both were involved in that you wasn't really involved in,
Oh,
but the
really?
person brought you in the
Oh,
mix.
yeah.
And it was so funny. But it was about our level of consciousness and about like how, what did they say? That I was like too, how it made me feel was that like I was too quote unquote conscious. And that, and I brought, I took the joy out of many things. I feel like a lot of people may think that, like to be conscious, like for me in particularly, that I am not fun.
So do you feel like, but I don't, from knowing you, I don't get the sense that you feel that it's alienating.
No, I do think it's alienating. I don't know if I'm going to say that word, but I do, like I said earlier, I think it's harder to build community, new community, like establish new relationships to people. Because for the most part, like outside of like the circles that I've created already, a lot of people are hella anti-Black, even some Black people, like I'm just naming one kind of thing that I experience on the daily. Like a lot of people are anti-Black, and I can't really, at this point, continue to like invest energy and time to new people who have to do a lot of unlearning.
Right.
So it can be alienating. Yeah. So building community building community outside of like the friends that I have found is a little bit alienating and difficult for me. And my experiences like moving up north, and not in the Bay, but sometimes also in the Bay, that I felt like a lot of communities were still anti-Black. Even spaces that should have been not so were like anti-Black. And that became frustrating. And what's the word when you feel like, oh, maybe I should just like keep to myself? I don't know how to.
You became more of an introvert?
Yeah.
Or secluded?
Secluded. I'll say that. Secluded.
Okay.
What about you?
I think it makes it really difficult to date. I've noticed that that was one of the main things that I come across. I remember when we were at the club, you were like asking me who was the last Black person I dated. And then I thought of one person that I didn't date, but I really, really liked. That was a mutual friend of ours that is Black, but I ended up not pursuing it because of some of the lack of consciousness that I felt that that person had when it came to like different race. It was just a couple of comments that, you know, that person was like, one person was like, oh, you're really cute, you know, for an Asian. I'm like, oh, why are you saying that, you know? Or, and then it was just like other things. Like I tend not to date people that have the same issues or are too similar to what I am, because I believe in complementarity and I believe in, it's kind of like almost like survival of the fittest. Like, why would you date somebody that has the same issues you have? Like, y'all just gonna make a bigger issue.
Well, or you
So-
can figure it out together.
Is that how it works, really?
Yeah.
So when you have a company, you hire a whole bunch of people that have the same things y'all all have the same qualities, and you hire them together, and y'all hope you
well, the
figure
fact
out
that you're
other-
thinking about
That
your
doesn't make
intimate partner
sense.
as a company is a little bit different. Like usually, company is out of like corporations and business. But like,
I do think of it that way, and it's the intervention happening right now. It's the intervention happening right now.
Well, I think that there are people you're attracted to, and you realize you have certain like things you need to work on, and you see yourself in somebody else, and that shouldn't stop you from like creating a relationship with them because you can work on those things together.
All right. I mean, that's a little scary, but
I mean,
all right.
have you done it?
What?
Have you invested like time and energy in trying that?
Trying
Or
to work?
versus
Wait.
you see the flag and you're like, oh no, we both have to work on that, and then you just bounce.
I think I have from 2013, 2012. Yeah, 2012 to 2014. I think I have. Past that, no, I haven't dated anybody. So no.
Right.
But I've definitely done that. I mean, you know, 13 years. I've tried all of it. It's usually one of the things that when I say I don't do something, it's because I did it and it didn't work out. So I kind of operate on like experiences, past experiences. I try not to repeat the same mistakes over and over again. And I noticed.
I'm curious though. Like, what is an issue that you say like you have and you see in somebody else, and then you don't want to?
Oh, like if someone is having financial problems and like, or like different, they can't, you know, stability. Like, I'm not gonna date somebody that.
What kind of stability in particular?
Like
housing?
even being set in one place. Like
Housing.
yeah, it could be housing, it could be jobs. You know, I don't tend to go for someone that has that same type of, you know, thing. I mean, and that's really personal, but I'm an open book and I don't care. But
No, I'm glad
that
you
is
said
one
that
thing.
because I wasn't thinking on those kind of like material things. I was thinking about like personal characteristic things that like trauma, things like
Oh,
that.
okay,
But
so-
now you're talking about like, that.
well, I definitely
I can see
wouldn't.
that.
I think when it comes to characteristics and personality traits, I'm pretty flexible. But I do tend to, like, I wouldn't probably date someone that's aggressive. I'm not into that.
Are
That's
you aggressive?
I'm more aggressive. I tend to. I don't know if I'm aggressive, but I know that I'm attracted to people that are less aggressive than I am. So that's something I recognize about myself, and that's something that I like. You know how like people
get that.
have, you know, certain traits that they have. Mine aren't necessarily like, you know, the colors or whatever, like, you know, skin or whatever. But mine are personality traits that I see. And that's why I tend to like, I do like femme, or I like, because it matches what, I think the balance is better. I tend to not date people that talk as harsh as I do, you know?
think you talk? Oh, like vulgar?
No, when I, in certain spaces, like I don't have much patience, and I talk more aggressively when I don't have, so I would love to date somebody that has patience.
Right.
So those are things like, if I recognize those traits, then that attracts me to them. If I recognize that they have some of the things that I have, like not really patience, or even have the same communication style that I have, in the sense that's combative,
Yeah.
no, that's not gonna work, because I've been there and done that, you know. So I really like complimentarity. I like someone to compliment me.
That's good. I see that. Now that you talk like in depth about those things, I understand that. I get that. How do we get to dating?
You did that. You did
Oh
that.
my God. How do we get
No,
there?
we gotta change the whole topic.
No, because you said it's hard to date.
Being woke.
Yeah.
Well, and I mean, and that's when I was saying like a level of consciousness. I think because I've spent so much time with myself, I've gotten to know self. I've gotten to learn the things that work for me and don't work for me, the things I want to improve that I don't want to improve.
Right.
And then just interactions with others, and I don't know, it's I quickly see certain things and I'm like, and then sometimes I ignore it and I try it and then it comes to fruition. I'm like, so
Yeah.
I just don't. I think, and to circle back to what we were talking about, when you are woke, when you recognize red flags in the way people speak. You recognize red flags in the way people interact with other people, do certain things. You can kind of tell, like, oh, they don't like Black people. That's self-hatred, or it might be some trauma or something like that. Like, it's certain things that you like realize, and you will tend to like,
Turned off?
be turned off, write them off, or choose not to pursue that, in not in like a relationship, but just like a platonic relationship, or even just casual conversation. You're like, oh, okay, I'm gonna end the like even like Uber drivers or Lyft drivers, they say certain things,
my goodness.
and you're like, okay, I know what you're about, I know where you're coming from, and I don't want to engage anymore.
Yes, I have a story about the Lyft driver recently with the Santa Cruz tribute.
Right. Okay.
And Santa Cruz tribute was this Friday. Downtown LA. It was really, really great.
Okay.
And, okay, so, but you know my partner and I, okay, we're kind of like a lot different, but also a lot alike. But when we have had libations in our systems, we're really different. Like, Quats is, I said their name. Quats is more, this whole time I'm trying to not say their name. It's okay. Is more, in my opinion, less censored.
Okay.
In thought and expression. Like, because alcohol helps you do that. It shuts off certain things in your brain, so you can be more sociable. Or social. Sociable.
Sociable.
And so, I say all that to say, if something's bothering them and they've been drinking, then they're going to say it and talk about it more harshly than usual. So we're in the lift, and we were saying, oh, how'd you like it? And I was like, oh, it was good. I was like, how'd you like it? It was good. And then I said, the only thing that I just wish stopped, particularly here, is this whole Latinidad thing that happens. So we're and I'll explain. So in the concert, one band was like Cuban, the other band was a pan-Latinx identity, right?
Okay.
And so many people were different things and from different countries, and it was really dope. But they would all say like, Latinos! Yeah, right? Like the whole night. And I feel like that's kind of erases Celia, particularly, who is a Black Cuban woman who sang particularly Black Cuban music, whose music was about Blackness.
Yeah.
And which here in the U.S., like Latinidad, Latinx identity becomes like a blanket identity and ignores the people, the histories, and the people. And so I said that, and then Quas was like, I know that because I don't hear people say like Viva los Morenos or los Negros, you know? It's like, los Latinos. Even if they're singing Black music.
Okay.
And so the Lyft driver was like, no, we're all just one people.
Okay.
And the Lyft driver was of Mexican descent. And young, like 24. And so Quats was like, no, we're not. And then they were like, yeah, we are. And then Quats and we all had a conversation about like race. And it lasted from downtown to Gardena. And then they were like, I can tell y'all are passionate about. And I was like, Quats, you know, you're kind of being harsh. You're talking to the lift like it's family. Right. You know how you can have like less patience with, well, for me, in my experience, have less patience with like family. Mm-hmm. And it just felt very like familiar. And Quats, I was like, you know, Quats, just like, let's talk today. Yeah. But yeah. What are all your thoughts? You have a lot of thoughts.
I mean, well, sticking with the topic of being woke, I definitely understand that happens a lot. You have these like, either those conversations are happening in your head or they're happening out loud, and there's just all this combativeness that's happening when you're just trying to have like a fluid conversation. And I think for those that are not quote unquote woke, which there's many different levels to it, that it becomes this burden, it becomes work, it's a challenge. And a lot of people aren't up for the challenge. They just want to be naive and ignorant because that is the mass, and it's a lot easier to go with the quote unquote flow than it is to go upstream and combat what the conditioning has engraved in you from media or parents or whatnot. But in that particular thing, I've heard, Viva los Latinos or something like that, but I think the one that really irks me is Viva la Raza. And it's,
well,
yeah, particularly, they're just talking about like Mexican identity. And I think that's the only time where I kind of speak out. But when they say Latinos, I just kind of take it as Latinos. And if they don't know that there's different races in the ethnicity, then that's a deeper conversation. But it doesn't necessarily, when someone just say Latinos, that doesn't necessarily bother me. It excludes people that love Latin music. It's just like, but I don't know. That was kind of what's going through my head. But I think that's one of those challenges that's an example of a challenge that you have when you do have a certain consciousness.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. That's a big one for me, actually. Yeah.
Huh?
Oh, can I add something?
Go ahead.
I think it really, the experience is different depending where you are.
Yeah.
When Latinos are, people from Latin America or Spanish speakers are in America, in the United States in particular, the concept of Latinidad is important because in a way it helps build community. Yeah. However, it's important to be able to see the differences and experience when we look within the box of Latino, right? Because there is people from different race, right? That have different experience, that have been oppressed differently, not only in America but also
over
in
their
country.
Yeah. So, I think we will have to probably look at Celia in this particular example and how she defined herself or she identified herself. She did identify herself as a
Latina, right?
So like, there's
two.
that situation. Two.
Like it was two. It wasn't first. It was...
Well, because society didn't treat her that way. Well, I'm saying like in Cuba, I'm sure she was black first. Like wherever
anywhere
you go, you're
went,
black.
she was
black.
Black.
That's what I'm saying. So it's like, which you're right. For me, it's implied, but for other people, that's not.
So it's a different crowd. That's exactly what I'm talking about. Like a sea full of non-black people singing black music and not recognizing blackness is a problem to me.
They never. I don't feel like that's always been the. So what I'm thinking about right now is that, regardless of where I've been, when it comes to music in general, blackness has never been recognized. And then that's all I know. So like I said, when we would listen to Don Omar, we would listen to Tego Calderon, we listen to Celia Cruz, and so many other black
Celia
artists.
would. recognize black.
No. I'm saying the lovers of that music.
Yeah.
The people that listen to that music, for some reason, it just fucking goes over their head. Like it never.
And it's an issue that goes back home. Like, even back home, the concept of nationhood, right?
Yes.
Mhm.
It's big. And so we can think about ourselves as Puerto Rican, right? And yeah, we can talk a little bit about our ancestry and black ancestry, etc., African ancestry, but we don't want to identify ourselves as black people, right? Or, so there's issues with that, and there's a lot of, white Puerto Ricans or light-skinned Puerto Ricans that are not going to really, like, how do you call that? Like, I don't know.
Yeah, like galvanize or embrace.
Embrace.
Yeah.
That's the undertone, the issues I have.
I feel like
Layers.
that one experience you had is pretty much how the space I walk in every day when I've grown to this consciousness that I have now. Like everything, people just don't. I think for some people that aren't quote unquote woke, they just speak, they just do, things are just is, and you are who you are kind of thing. But being woke or having a level of consciousness, you understand complexities, and you understand layers, and you understand when things happen, the reason behind things happen. You are looking at like the root cause of things, and it just really affects your being. It affects every fiber of your being, I feel like, when you are quote unquote woke. And so it's like what the conversation you all had out loud, like I said, I've already said this, but you have it internally. If it's not said out loud, it's happening internally, and you just can't converse fluidly almost with those that choose to stay low level.
There are some people who choose to stay low levels,
And
choose to stay ignorant, and then there's some people. There's like a different group. There are people who will fight back, and so I'm like, you choosing to be ignorant, and then there's some people who just don't know, and then you have to figure out how you want to treat the two communities, like how much energy you want to give to those two communities.
So are you happy that you chose the red pill instead of the blue pill? Being woke and not woke. I guess the red pill, like the Matrix. I can't remember which one was.
I forgot which one it was. No, it's better to be. Some days I'm like, why do I have to know this? And then I'm like, oh.
How would you encourage people to continue in their wokeness?
That you can imagine a place where that is more humane, and you can help create that place.
Okay. And so with that being said, I'm going to try and close it out a little bit. I don't know what we're doing on time, but I think what you uploaded regarding, what was it, what was it?
What?
Oh, shit.
Come on, Woke Wednesday?
Yeah, our Woke Wednesday.
Victim blaming.
I think that goes perfectly along with being woke.
Yeah.
You know, give us a little thing on what victim blaming is real quick.
Victim blaming. I'm just going to read what we wrote today. And I think it's so fitting for our context right now.
Yeah.
About the hashtag Me Too that's been going on. It's like...
Can you speak a little bit about Me Too?
Yeah, so the hashtag Me Too was, it wasn't even a hashtag or a campaign or movement. It's on social media. It was created by a black woman. Her name is slipping my mind. But to try to heighten awareness of folks who've been sexually assaulted or sexually harassed.
Okay.
And so people have been sharing their stories on social media with the hashtag Me Too. So today our Woke Wednesday topic was victim blaming. And I'll just read what we wrote. And it says, victim blaming is when one consciously or unconsciously assigns fault on a person or a group of people who were targets of an act of violence. So we're saying that the people who experience the violence are the ones who brought it to themselves. And this happens a lot particularly with people who've been sexually assaulted or sexually harassed. Like rape victims, we culturally are taught to like blame the people who were raped for their rape.
Right.
Saying like, why does he or she get that drunk in this crowd when they know these people are this way? You know, we're putting the fault on them. We're not actually faulting the people who caused the harm.
I agree that I think one big way to kind of start your journey on combating verbal blaming is finding sympathy. If you can't find empathy, find sympathy. And if you can't find sympathy, then check your privilege. And after you check your privilege and you still can't find, then lick ass. But I think it starts
Sometimes
with,
that's good though. People like it. I don't know.
but no, I think like if you just put yourself in their shoes and empathize, I think it helps with lessening or like not victim blaming, right? If you can't empathize, you know, being sympathetic to the situation, hearing them, listening to them, and not, you know, necessarily judging, but just being compassionate and humane, not inhumane, but
And yeah.
you know, that's one way. But also, I find a lot of people have to like check their privilege. I think a lot of times, you know, things like that happen and they place a blame on someone, or you know, place a blame on certain people due to certain circumstances that happen, and not look at the totality of the situation and the root of how that happened. And they're not able to look at that because they haven't been through it or they don't know it. So it's like, that's a privilege. Check it. So you know, if you could do those three things before you choose the victim blame, which you shouldn't do at all, but like just think of those three things before you open your mouth and say some bullshit. That's just my little 2 cents.
Yeah.
My black sense.
I love your black sense. Yeah. So if you know someone who was target of violence and your first thought is like, well, what did they do? Check that thought. Realize where that thought is coming from. That's the first action.
Well, this has been wonderful, wonderful, great topic discussion. One that I kind of want to continue the next episode. I'm talking about Afro-Latino,
Your peoples.
Black Latino,
Your peoples.
Black American, and Latino
Relations.
relations, mix,
Cohabilitation.
and all of that, the different cultures, the different experiences, the different everything. Hopefully it'll be our next topic. We can continue and elaborate on that.
One of these days.
That's a good one. Alrighty.
Don't forget to follow us on all of our social medias. Black with a Q, 2 the number, reality. Blaq2Reality.
Blaq2Reality.
Thanks for
Email us
listening.
with comments.
Email us with comments. Blaq2Reality
Questions.
@gmail.com.
All over your face.